Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Ranking Revolution podcast. My name is Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, we talked to Kyle Roof. It's actually a two-parter. In the first part, in this episode, we talk about SEO testing and how to run effective tests, how you can run tests on your own, and some of the pitfalls that people run into, as well as I actually provide a nice little idea. I donate an idea that you could run with, and I'm almost 99% sure, I think Kyle was convinced too, that it would be a great idea for like a YouTube channel and a few other things. It's a good idea. I just don't have time to do it myself. So this is a great one, especially if you're interested in SEO testing and being effective at running such tests. And there's going to be a second part where we talk about the keyword golden ratio, but that's a separate episode. Without further ado, let's hear from Kyle Roof. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Ranking Revolution podcast, your go-to source for strategies and ideas for SEO, organic growth, content creation, and online business. Today, I'm excited because we have my friend Kyle Roof. Kyle is involved in many SEO and online businesses, from the on-page SEO tool, Page Optimizer Pro, to training at Internet Marketing Gold, IMG, and he's at conferences all the time. In fact, he's a founder, one of the founders of the SEO Estonia Conference, and he's a speaker and attendee of many conferences across the world. He's dedicated nearly a decade, actually it's more than a decade of his life, to SEO testing, and he's published these results, over 400 scientific tests he's conducted over on IMG. So over the years, he's fine-tuned and developed a method to test whether single variables are ranking factors in the Google algorithm. He even has a patent in this area. We're going to cover two main topics today, one around SEO testing and using those results, and the other about the keyword golden ratio. So we're going to get into those details. Kyle, how's it going today?
Oh, great. That was a fantastic intro. My mother will be very happy to hear that one.
I just got it from your about page. I think you wrote the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. It works out well when I prepare, but it's been a little while since we caught up. So what's new with you, man?
Oh man, it feels like the things just get busier and busier, doesn't it? Like time flies, lots of work going on, doing lots of shows, doing lots of testing, doing a lot of SEO. Yeah, same old, I guess.
All right. Well, it looks like you're having fun doing it. And I know when I check out my YouTube feed or my podcast feed, your name pops up a lot. So good job getting out there and spreading the word and all that stuff. You're a great guest, which is why you're here. And let's just jump right into it. So let's talk about SEO testing and maybe some of the mistakes that people do make and some of the things that you figured out, so that you not only could get that patent, but you could run these tests with sort of reliable results and something that you could take away so people can take action based on the results of the test. So very wide open question, but I'll let you lead the way.
You know, running these types of tests is really a lot of no fun. They take a lot of time to set up. There are a lot of challenges involved in that. They often take time, and I think that's the main reason that people don't do them. It's just it's not enjoyable in the process necessarily, but it is a lot of fun in the results. I think a mistake that people will make, and I think there are two. One is they'll say like, I want to test this technique. Well, that technique might have 50 steps. And really, if you want to do a scientific test, or as close as we can get, you really want to get it down to testing a thing. You know, that's when you can feel the best about those results. And so conceptually, a lot of people have issue or problems getting down to a single variable or a single thing that they want to look at. But that said, the second problem that I see with a lot of people is that they just don't do it. Like, they've got a great idea, and it doesn't matter that it's not the most scientific of all time, but there's nothing wrong with trying something and reporting how it went. You know, that you did the technique and you did it this way and under these circumstances, and these are the results you got. That information is extremely beneficial to the SEO community, and it will be extremely beneficial to your own SEO. And so I think people, one is they'll struggle to kind of understand the concept of a scientific, but on the other hand, end up not doing anything. That is usually where most people fall in, and the result is the same in both regards, and then really just no tests happen, and no knowledge is gained.
And for the sort of variable to test, how do you, I guess, look at a scenario and maybe you have a seed of an idea, the thing that you want to test? How do you narrow it down to the variable that you do want to test? And then we are dealing with the real world. We're dealing with the Google algorithm, which may or may not work logically or how we expect. So it's a multiple variable situation plus external factors. So it gets very complicated. I mean, just like all scientists may have to deal with this kind of stuff. So how do you narrow it down and then make sure you're not getting interference?
The biggest thing to really understand those, you don't have to know the entire algorithm. All you really need to do is pull back the curtain just a little bit, and have that little bit of knowledge on things that you know will work, and that's going to give you the edge. So don't feel the need or the idea of like, oh, if I don't know everything about Google, then running a test isn't worth your while. It certainly is. Uh, Tests are the easiest ones to run and to get results on are going to be on page results by far. And in the most basic setup, you would say build 5 identical pages. They would go after the same keyword. This can be a nonsense keyword, or it could be like a 3-word phrase in English of words that don't necessarily go together naturally. So nobody's really optimizing for them. The reason you do this is if it's a nonsense keyword and you get those pages indexed, you control the entire environment. If it's a 3 words that don't go together, you're going to get very limited results and often no results, or because people aren't optimizing for that thing. So again, once you then introduce something to that environment, you know that's the only thing that's going on in there that could impact this. So let's say you want to decide if is an H1 a ranking factor. Does Google care about this? And this is actually something that I just did in the last month, where people talk about with AI and the new SERPs, how Google doesn't look at tags anymore. The tags are out, and the AI is reading them, and on-page optimization is dead essentially because of AI. So then, this is going back to 2014, 2015 when I started running these tests. The first thing was I realized that there were different areas on the page that Google was looking at, and they have different relative strengths. They're not all equal. And so when I look at, just from a basic sense, 2014 test, is Google reading the H1? And so what we do in this situation is 5 identical pages on the same domain. They're all optimized for the same keyword. We index them so all 5 show. None of those have an H1 on them. They're all identical in their optimization, but no H1s. Then on the last ranking page, the page that's indexed at the bottom, an H1 is added containing the target keyword. On all the other pages, the target keyword is added one more time in paragraph tags, so that there's still the same term frequency for the use of the target keyword. We put that on, resend them through Search Console, and that one goes right to the top. The H1 goes right to the top, which is what was anticipated and what I was confident would happen, because Google is still looking at the pages as a bot looks at the pages, and they still care about the different zones on the page, and they still care about H tags, and H tags are still a stronger signal than paragraph tags. And very simple test you can run, and you can do it, and that's something also that you can replicate it. You can do yourself. Now, to get validity and a way to feel really good about your results is you want to repeat them, right? But again, that's time consuming, that's taxing, that it takes budget and resources and just mental strength that you might not have, or the desire to stick to it. So what you can do, and this is also something I learned throughout the way, is you can test in the inverse. Do it the other way. So the idea is you would have 5 identical pages. You would have, once they all index with no H1s, you would add an H1 to 4 of them, and then the top one wouldn't have an H1. You'd add one more time in the paragraph tags. And what happens is that one then drops to the bottom. You've done the test in the inverse. You've shown it both ways, and then you got something. And that allows you to fast track your testing, so you don't have to continue to repeat a test to see the same result. If you can do the test in the inverse and it goes the opposite direction, then you've got something.
You mentioned you do 5 samples. I don't know how you
Sure,
describe
five,
that.
five identical pages, and so they're going to be exactly the same except for a couple different letters in the URL. So you'll all have a unique URL, but say the target keyword's right next to the .com, and you've got a string of say 7 random letters after it. But
Okay.
and then the rest of the pages are identical.
Are they all in the same domain or does it matter?
Yep. You want to do them on the same domain because if there's something that has happened to this domain, it's happening to all of those pages. And then people will be like, well, what about duplicate content? And I would say, well, what about duplicate content? But if there is a duplicate content issue, it's happening to all the pages. And then you can see all the pages indexed so you know that there isn't a duplicate content issue.
Why 5? Why not 7 or 3?
Do as many as you like. I think the smallest number that you feel comfortable. Well, 3 would be the smallest number, but you want to get a few pages in there so you can see some movement.
How often do you run, and I'm not sure if my vocabulary is right, but how often do you run like the positive test where you're looking for this thing to happen because you added the H1 tag versus like a negative test where you're like, we're going to test this and we actually don't expect anything to happen? Do you look for those as well?
Well, the negative test and what I was talking about was just kind of seeing the results, running it the other way and getting it in the inverse. But no, their tests are run all the time, not knowing what the outcome might be. We give a best guess because you do want to write down what your thoughts are, what you think will happen. You want to do that just in case your own bias has somehow crept in and you can kind of evaluate maybe what happened. But no, we run tests all the time where we're not sure. Did one just last week where looking at the no script tag. It's a tag that's kind of giving maybe like an alternate version of the text and it's kind of keeping it within the CSS. Is Google going to read that? And I can tell you that Google does read that. And a page will index where a keyword. So what you do on that is you index a page for a target keyword, whatever it might be, whatever you like to do. And then what you do is you add content into a no script tag and it contains a different keyword. So this page is in the index. Google knows that it's there. Run it back through. And if the page indexed for that new keyword, then you know Google is reading that script area. And we know, and I can tell you for a fact that Google is doing that because the page is showing twice for 2 different keywords. And one is visible on the page, as would normally be, and the other is not visible and only appears within that one tag.
So what would be an actionable, how might someone use that information?
Well, that came up through a user in Pop that was saying like, "Hey, I'm using," and they were doing it for a valid reason. They were just kind of hanging on to some text, and it was being shown, I think, within if the user clicked on something and then there was an application that would then show some text. And like, we actually have that over here, kind of a thing. Well, it's like, well, will Google read that? Will it count the terms? And we wanted to make sure because Pop wasn't counting it. We want to see like, well, will Google recognize it? And if Google does, then that's something that we want to count. And that's how that test came to be. And yeah, lo and behold, Google will count it, so Pop will now count it. And it actually kind of brings up a huge misconception about on page where people are like, in my Google Doc it says I've got 500 words here in content, but when I put it into Pop, it tells me I've got 1,000 words. Well, that's because there's a lot of words that Google's reading that you're not seeing. There's a lot within the code that Google reads, and those are tests that we run to see if Google's actually picking it up and counting it. And by and large, they are. This will explain to people why when they do like a template change, why their rankings tanked. They probably their code changed. Then they probably reduced their term counts going from this template to that template, and so they just probably cut their content in half without even realizing it. And yeah, sure, your Google's going to refactor those pages, see you cut out half your content, and you're going to drop. That's just how it's going to be. And so like that's what all these tests are great for, is that hey, we've got this particular issue. What's going on here? Is Google actually looking at this section of the page? Is it looking at this tag? Is it looking inside here? Do these tags matter at all? Like I can tell you, it matters down to H4, H1 through H4. Google's not looking at H5. It's going to count the same as a paragraph text. And so, but H1 through H4 do have different values in descending order. And that's just all through running these types of tests and then running them again and then running them in the inverse when we can. And you start to get results you start feeling comfortable with that, yeah, okay, this is what's going on. And then you can take that information and you can apply it.
So the tags, the example that you're mentioning, it seems like that might be one of the most significant ones because we've used tags for years, and common knowledge is use the tags. It provides a hierarchy. Google reads them. It provides all this great information about the content. And I'm curious, are there other big tests that you've executed, you got results that really sort of significantly changed or provided like evidence that things are a certain way? And you could talk about the last year, since SEO has changed a decent amount in the last year or so, or if you need to go back further, that's totally fine too. But just curious about the biggest test that you've figured out.
Well, similar to the no script one that really rocked a lot of socks off was ranking a blank page and doing it with a tag where you display none. So the idea is that the entire content is gone and a human cannot see anything, but Google can. And this goes to show that Google is not looking at the page. Google's not reading the page. Google cannot see the page. Google's reading the code, and Google's reading what's in the CSS. And people will argue that point all day long. that Google's looking at it this way, and Google's not reading the code, and they're rendering the page, and then they're looking at it that way. And I can tell you for a fact they're not, because you can rank a page that is display none.
Okay. And I mean, it logically, if you would have asked me before we started chatting, or that you answered the question right before that, I think I probably would have said, yeah, they're looking at what is visible on the page, not anything that you cannot see. But that is completely wrong. Google is reading the code. Okay.
Yeah. Which also tells you, what was it, a year and a half ago or so, there was the Yandex leak. And in that, Yandex is built as a Google clone. And it seemed pretty clear that Yandex was using what they call BM25. It's like a TF-IDF plus word count is basically what it is. So TF-IDF it's a bag of words model. We're just counting frequency. So you put all the words into a bag, you give it a shake, you pull them out, you just start counting, right? And then the more times a word shows up, the more important it is its term frequency. By the way, it's inverse document frequency. So the fewer documents that have the most terms, essentially. That's what you're looking at. BM25 then adds in word count as a factor within that. And now when you think about it from what Yandex is trying to do, I believe they poached Google engineers, brought them in to do this. Now, if Google's not using BM25, what this tells me is they're doing something that's a very close approximation to that. Even if it's a fancy version of something, it's basically that. But then really when I started thinking about it more, I was like, this is so cheap to do. They have to run 1 trillion pages. They're going to find the least expensive way to do it, and this is the least expensive way. So there's really little doubt in my mind that this is how they're reading pages. And then when you kind of run through the tests that I've run through and the things that I've seen, like, yeah, they're just taking all the words, they're putting it in a bag, they're shaking it up, and it's cheap and easy, and it's effective, and the results are pretty good. This is why something like Pop works, is because we're using a bag of words, and this is why we're able to have consistent success with the tool, and why it hasn't been canned years ago, is because we're doing something quite similar to how the search engines are doing it, because it's a very cheap way to do something to get pretty decent results. And that's what we're able to emulate. So, yeah, so that was a long-winded answer, but, it still goes back to as much as things change, it stays the same. And that's why I'm not very knee-jerky and scared about whatever is coming with the AI stuff, because I think it's going to be used in a very limited fashion. It's not AI anyway. It's a language model type deal, and language models are still algorithmic. And if it's algorithmic, then it's going to require optimization, and there's going to be a lot that we can do with that.
So I have a couple other questions around running tests, and I do want to ask a little bit more about Page Optimizer Pro Pop, which you referred to, and then we'll transition into the other area, the keyword golden ratio stuff. So for this sort of testing, like you mentioned, you opened up and you said it's pretty difficult because it's tedious. It's not the most exciting thing. Like, we want the results and then we want to run with the results, but like setting up the tests, even though, simple step by step, but it all takes time to do and everything adds up. And we all probably have like 50 tests in our head. We're like, oh, I wonder if this works. I wonder if that works. So it becomes overwhelming and people don't take action. Do you know of other people, other organizations, other software companies that are running tests like this and publishing the results somewhere? And yeah, if you're able and willing to share, I think a lot of the highest level SEOs like yourself, like you're more about like sharing information than like withholding it. And the more we all know, the more everyone knows, which is really a good thing. So yeah, any others running tests like this that you know of?
There are several, excuse me, there are several people within IMG that are running tests, and their tests are published, and which is great because it's not. What I find what's kind of fun about that is everybody's kind of got a different thing that they're interested in. They're coming at it from a different angle. They have different problems. All my tests come from my own problems, my own things that I need to figure out, and other people have other issues or other things they want to know, and so it really gives a nice variety. SIA is still around, I believe. I haven't seen anything from them in a while, but I think they're still there, and that's the group that I was originally with. I think they're still trucking along.
Okay. What were they called
and
again?
then
I'm sorry.
SIA, the SEO Intelligence Agency.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they're still running tests, but I haven't seen much in a while. But somebody like Matt Diggity, he's running tests, and a lot of the tests that he runs them through SEOtesting.com. If you're gun shy on how to run these things, or you want to do something that might be a little more instantly applicable, where you can say, hey, we could do A or B, right? So why don't we do A to 10 pages on our site and B to a different 10 pages and monitor the results? Something like SEO testing is a great platform to run those types of tests where you can then monitor those results with a high degree of confidence. It's a great platform, and I highly recommend that. So maybe you don't want to run, a test like I talked about really for the academic knowledge of it, or that it's not quite as applicable to, like, okay, Google's reading the code, now what? And there are things you can do, but that's more of a conceptual idea as you're building out your SEO framework. If you want to do something that's really, let's get some results and feel confident about making the right decision, use something like SEOtesting.com, and I think you might find a really good avenue for running tests and getting good results that you can apply immediately.
Perfect. So other question around this, some of us are a little bit older. I'm in my mid 40s now, and my high school scientific method knowledge, I forgot some of it. And Kyle, you're laughing. I mean, we're about the same age, I think. So
We're exactly the same age.
so yeah, and like in theory, when I
a
hear
little bit
people,
older, speak for yourself.
I'm just hitting my prime. I'm just sleeping
That's
more
right.
now. So basically, that's one of that's one of the hangups, right? Someone like here's results. They hear people testing, and then it turns out maybe whoever is running the test, they're just like not doing what they should. But let's step back and think, okay, if someone is interested in doing some tests, how would you recommend they refresh their knowledge on the scientific method to ensure that they are, setting up a test properly, they're writing down their hypothesis ahead of time? A couple of the key it's probably a one-pager situation, or you could ask like your nearest high school student in your family that just took this class. But yeah, how would you guide someone who maybe they don't have a scientific background?
You can just do that quick Google search, scientific method, and they'll show you the little wheel. That'll get you there. What helps me in these things is first writing down the background, like where did I see this issue, or like maybe you saw something in the SERPs, or you saw a competitor do something, or just an idea came to you, or you're doing client work and a client asked a question you really didn't know. Write down a little background so you have a feel for where you're coming from, and then write down what you think will happen. That's your hypothesis. I think this will happen. And then from there, as you set up these tests, you just want to remember what you do to one, you need to do to them all to eliminate variables as much as you possibly can. And then once you've done that, then you're only changing one thing on one page. That's your test page. Everything else is the control. So whatever you do to one, you have to do to the others, unless that's the one thing that you're testing. So if you click and open a page, for example, you go to look at it, you're going to want to go and click and open all the other ones. So that they are all as the same as you possibly. That's why it's if you can. Some tests require you have to do different domains. That's just kind of how it works, depending on what you're doing. Let's say you want to see if domain names matter. So then obviously you're going to be running this on different domains. In those situations, then you just want to run it as many times as you possibly can and plot the results. And then you can start to see if they cluster. And you're going to see, okay, there's a noticeable trend, or if it's scattered, like, okay, there's nothing here. But otherwise, as long as you're very cognizant of the fact that I've got these tests, I've got those 5 pages, they're going to be completely identical. And anything I do to one, I'm going to do to others, except for that one thing that I really want to look at. Then you'll be okay. And if after you make the change to the one page, for example, to your test page, and then you want to run it through Search Console, which is totally fine, make sure you run all the other ones through Search Console, even though you didn't change anything on them. So just as long as you kind of keep that consistency amongst your pages, then I think you can do pretty well setting up your own little tests.
I'll donate an idea to anyone that wants to run with it, because it would be a pain in the ass to do this. But if someone created a YouTube channel and or a Facebook group and email list, just running tests, you don't have to have all the tests be successful, but just sharing the results.
No.
And the process you described, Kyle, where it's like you write down the hypothesis. I mean, it's a little vlog. You could take people on a story, a little journey there, and you're learning something, and it's relatively inexpensive other than your time. So
yeah. Well, and so if somebody wants to run a test and they want to publish it within IMG, we'll give them a free membership for the quarter.
Oh, there you go.
So they can. There you go.
A lot of wins, a lot of incentives to get started. And I'm pretty sure their channel would blow up and you could speak at conferences or whatever, because you could talk about the test, you could talk about starting the channel and the whole scenario. It's a very fruitful situation. So
people love hearing about the results. Love it. It makes great content for a presentation. And here's the thing too, so it's like 2015, I spoke at my first conference. Which is an excellent conference. And it was a smaller group. There was only about 40, 50 people in the room, and they were really high level people. And I was a late addition, and I kind of figured out this method for testing. And this was my presentation, and then I was going to show some results. And I thought it was one of those things where people can talk to you on stage too. It's kind of collaborative. And I just thought, I'm going to show the way I'm doing it, and everyone else is going to show the way they're doing it. And 5 minutes into the talk, I realized nobody's doing this. Like nobody at all. And then I realized, so then I went back, I spoke to my business partner about this, and I was like, we've got this agency and we're pretty new, and we're trying to find our point of view, trying to find our voice. Like, why are we providing these services? And I was like, well, our methods are built on these tests that I've been running. And it turns out we're the only ones running this. And so we can brand ourselves as a science-based SEO agency, and that we run tests. And then a line that we used at the beginning was, hey, those other agencies you're talking to, ask them the test that they're running right now. And we knew the answer was they're not running anything. That means they're testing and they're learning on your site, is what that means. We're testing and learning over here, so we know what works and what doesn't, and then we're bringing to you the stuff that has the best chance for the success. We're not going to learn on your site. We're not going to run a test on your site and learn that way. And that got us some clients we didn't deserve.
That's a hell of a sales point. Yeah.
Yeah. Where, we just, we didn't have the case studies necessarily. We didn't have the portfolio to say, but we've got these ideas and we know these are good, and we know them because of the tests, and we can kind of take that and apply it and put it as part of our pitch, and then really kind of give ourselves a voice, which kind of gets into sales too, which is something that it really didn't occur to me till later in my business life was, everyone can sell a widget, or everyone can sell a service, but why are you providing it? You have to have a point of view. Otherwise, you're just lost in the crowd. And you can still be successful, and you might get clients, but you really have to have something that makes you stand out, like in what you're doing. And so for us, we found that within the test, and we could really make that a huge part of our identity. And I've made it a huge part of my professional identity, and went and got the patent and all that. And that was actually through Dory from SIA. It was originally a marketing stunt. She just wanted to say that this was patent pending, and then the patent came through, which no one was expecting, and so that worked out. That worked out pretty well for me as well. So that's awesome. How that came about. But then it kind of all went into the whole thing, like, hey, I've got this patent, I run these tests, these are the results we do, and this is how we can help you and your company do better SEO.
Amazing. Okay. As we wrap up this section, Page Optimizer Pro, can you talk about what the tool does, what the goal is, and who the best users are for POP.
The real basic idea is we do competitive analysis to find out the amount of times you need to use very important terms and where you need to put them. And as we mentioned kind of earlier, that Google is still looking at the pages like they were looking at them before. There are different areas on the page that are more important, and Google's looking at how many times you're using specific terms in those places. And we give you the terms to use and a range on how many times you should use them, and to get you that competitive edge. But it's also important to know we're not doing averages. And we're also not leveraging somebody else's API. This is our own math, this is our own algorithm. And I think what I can confidently say is that with doing on page this way, you're giving yourself the best chance to rank. Nothing in SEO is a 100% guarantee. It's the idea of doing repeatable things that bring about the best chance for success. And that's exactly what POP does, is that if you follow the recommendations, I think with your on page, it gives you the best chance for success.
Very cool. Well, I'll link up to POP so people could check it out, and the YouTube videos and such. You guys have a channel out there, some content occasionally, so I'll make sure to link up. Thanks a lot to Kyle. He is fun to talk to. I can't wait to just hang out with him in person, and then we don't have to talk about SEO and marketing so much. But be sure to check out his stuff. We'll link up to the places where you could find him. He's over at Page Optimizer Pro, and you may see him at conferences somewhere across the world. He's at many of the big SEO conferences. And don't forget, there's a part 2, and we talk about a topic that I was really excited that Kyle actually suggested, and that's the keyword golden ratio. So we talk about why the keyword golden ratio is good and effective. And we also talk about where it falls short and the improvements that Kyle made for the KGR and how he implements it and how he's, helped clients and other folks use the keyword golden ratio. So be sure to check out part 2, which is the other episode in this series. Thanks a lot to Kyle, and we'll catch you on the next episode.